They will test you. With words meant to provoke, with opinions meant to shake you, with noise meant to drag you down to their level. Most people react without thinking. They raise their voice, defend their ego, and lose control, believing volume is strength. It is not. Strength is restraint. Power is choosing when to speak, and when a single sentence is enough. The wise do not argue to win. They respond to remain sovereign over their mind. When you understand this, conflict changes. The other person grows restless while you remain unmoved. There is a way to answer without anger, to respond without surrendering your peace, to use words not as weapons of rage but as tools of order and clarity. Such replies do not escalate, they end things, calmly, instantly. Today you will learn how composure silences arrogance, how discipline over speech unsettles those who seek reaction, and how a few well-chosen words spoken without emotion can stop any confrontation in its tracks. These are not clever comebacks. They are controlled responses, forged from ancient wisdom, designed to protect your mind and place you beyond disturbance. Listen closely. What follows is not about winning arguments, but about mastering yourself. True power is calm, not noise. Most people misunderstand strength because they have only seen its loudest imitation. They think the one who dominates the room, interrupts others, or speaks the longest must be the strongest. But noise is often a signal of inner disorder. When a person cannot govern their thoughts, their voice rises. When they cannot tolerate challenge, they rush to defend. When they fear losing control, they try to overpower with words. Calm, on the other hand, comes from certainty. It comes from a mind that knows where it stands and does not need constant affirmation. A calm person is not slow because they are weak. They are slow because they are precise. They do not rush to respond because they are not ruled by impulse. They allow insults to pass through them like wind through an open field. Not because the words have no edge, but because they understand that reacting gives those words weight. Silence, when chosen deliberately, is not absence, it is presence. It unsettles those who rely on chaos. It exposes the insecurity behind provocation. When you remain calm, you deny others the power they seek over you. Many confrontations are not about truth. They are about control. The person who provokes wants a reaction, an emotional shift, a visible disturbance. Calm refuses to cooperate. It keeps your inner order intact while the other person exhausts themselves against it. This is why calm feels intimidating to those who live in constant agitation. They cannot read it, cannot predict it, cannot manipulate it easily. Calm also sharpens judgment. In a heated exchange, the mind narrows and words escape without wisdom. Later, regret follows. But when the mind is steady, speech becomes deliberate. Every word has weight. Every pause has meaning. You stop speaking to release tension and start speaking to communicate truth. This is not passivity. It is discipline. It is choosing effectiveness over expression. Noise demands attention immediately. Calm commands respect over time. One fades quickly. The other leaves an impression long after the moment has passed. History does not remember the loudest voices in the room. It remembers the steady ones who acted without panic and spoke without excess. Calm allows you to see beyond the moment, beyond the insult, beyond the need to prove yourself. It places you above the conflict instead of trapped within it. To cultivate calm is to train the mind daily, to question your first impulse, to delay reaction until clarity arrives, to understand that not every challenge deserves an answer, and not every answer deserves volume. In doing so, you become difficult to provoke and impossible to control. The world grows quieter around you, not because people speak less, but because their words lose the power to shake you. Silence can be a deliberate response, not weakness. Many people fear silence because they mistake it for surrender. They believe that if they do not answer immediately, they have somehow lost ground, allowed disrespect, or admitted defeat. This fear pushes them to fill every pause with explanations, defenses, and unnecessary words. But silence, when chosen with awareness, is not an absence of strength. It is a refusal to be dragged into disorder. A deliberate silence is an act of control. It signals that you are not compelled by every opinion placed before you. You do not rush to correct, justify, or convince. You allow space to exist, and in that space, the truth often reveals itself without effort. The person who expects a reaction grows uneasy when none arrives. They begin to speak more, to explain themselves, to expose their intent. Silence becomes a mirror, reflecting their agitation back to them. There is also clarity in silence. Words spoken too quickly often betray more than they protect. When you pause, You give your mind time to separate what matters from what merely irritates. You recognize that many attacks are not requests for understanding but invitations to chaos. Silence declines that invitation. It preserves your energy for moments that actually require it. Choosing silence does not mean tolerating injustice or accepting falsehood. It means understanding timing. There are moments when speech carries weight, and moments when it only fuels confusion. Wisdom lies in knowing the difference. A measured silence before speaking can turn a weak argument into a strong one, or reveal that no argument is necessary at all. Often, the most effective reply is delayed, not denied. Silence also communicates boundaries. It tells others that access to your thoughts and emotions is not automatic. They must earn it through respect and reason. This can feel uncomfortable to those accustomed to immediate engagement. They may interpret silence as arrogance or indifference, but that judgment is theirs to carry. Your responsibility is not to manage their discomfort, but to maintain your own integrity. In a world that rewards constant expression, silence becomes a rare discipline. It requires confidence to remain quiet when provoked, patience to endure misunderstanding, and trust in your own judgment. But with practice, silence becomes less of a restraint and more of a refuge. It protects you from saying what cannot be taken back and from becoming someone you do not respect. Those who master silence are often underestimated, and that is their advantage. They observe while others reveal. They listen while others argue. They learn while others perform. When they finally speak, their words arrive with force, not because they are loud, but because they are necessary. Silence used with intention reshapes power. It shifts control away from the one who demands attention and places it firmly in the hands of the one who chooses when to respond. Mastery of words begins with mastery of the self. Speech is never just sound. It is a reflection of the inner state. When the mind is restless, words become scattered. When emotions rule, speech becomes sharp, defensive, or excessive. This is why so many conversations collapse into conflict. People try to control the situation with words while remaining unable to control themselves. They speak to release pressure, not to express truth. To master the self is to understand the impulses that rise before words are formed. Anger wants to strike. Pride wants to dominate. Fear wants to justify. If these impulses go unchecked, they seize the tongue and speak on your behalf. Later, you may wonder why you said what you said, or why your words carried more heat than meaning. Self-mastery interrupts this process. It places a pause between feeling and expression, allowing reason to take its rightful place. When you govern yourself, words become deliberate rather than reactive. You stop speaking to win and start speaking to align with what is right. This does not make you cold or distant. It makes you consistent. Your words no longer change with mood or circumstance. They carry the same tone whether you are praised or challenged. This steadiness is rare, and people sense it immediately. They may not understand it, but they feel its weight. Self-mastery also teaches restraint. Not every thought deserves a voice. Not every observation improves a situation. Many errors in speech come from excess, from the belief that saying more will clarify when it often confuses. A disciplined mind knows when to stop. It values precision over abundance. One clear sentence spoken with control can accomplish what 10 emotional statements cannot. This discipline requires honesty with oneself. You must recognize your triggers, your vanities, and your fears. You must admit where you are most tempted to react. Without this awareness, words will continue to escape before wisdom arrives. But with it, speech becomes a choice rather than a reflex. You decide not only what to say, but why you are saying it. As self-mastery deepens, communication becomes calmer and more effective. You listen without preparing a counterattack. You respond without bitterness. You correct without humiliation. This changes the dynamic of every interaction. Arguments lose their fire when one side refuses to contribute fuel. Provocation weakens when it finds no emotional reward. Words shaped by self-mastery carry authority because they are not desperate for approval. They do not chase agreement or fear disagreement. They stand on their own, steady and measured. Over time, people learn that engaging with you requires the same level of discipline you bring to yourself. In this way, mastery of the self quietly reforms the world around you, not through force, but through example and unwavering control over the one thing that truly belongs to you. Your own mind. A single measured reply outweighs endless arguments. Most disputes do not continue because the issue is complex, but because words are being used without direction. People repeat themselves, raise their tone, and circle the same point in different forms, hoping persistence will replace clarity. The longer this continues, the further truth drifts from the conversation. What remains is noise, ego, and the desire to be seen as right rather than to be right. A measured reply cuts through this confusion. It is brief, intentional, and grounded. It does not attempt to address every accusation or satisfy every demand. Instead, it selects what matters and ignores what does not. This selectivity is not avoidance. It is discernment. By refusing to chase every comment, you prevent the conversation from multiplying into chaos. Endless arguments drain energy because they invite emotional investment. Each response becomes a defense of the previous one, and soon the conversation is no longer about the original matter. It becomes personal. A measured reply resists this spiral. It does not escalate. It does not mirror aggression. It stands apart, steady enough that further provocation finds little to attach to. There is also strength in finality. When a reply is clear and complete, it leaves little room for misinterpretation. It does not beg for acknowledgement or invite continuation. Those who argue endlessly often do so because the exchange itself sustains them. A concise response denies that satisfaction. It closes the door without slamming it. This approach requires courage. Saying less can feel risky, especially when the other person is saying much. Silence after a measured reply may feel like exposure, as though you have left something undefended. But restraint is a form of confidence. It signals that you trust your words enough not to surround them with excess. You allow them to stand as they are. A single, thoughtful reply also shifts the balance of control. The one who speaks less listens more, observes more, and reveals less. They gather information while giving little away. In contrast, the one who argues at length exposes their motives, insecurities, and limits. Over time, this imbalance becomes clear. The conversation slows and often it ends. Precision in speech reflects precision in thought. When you can summarize your position without anger or elaboration, you demonstrate understanding. You show that you are not confused, not overwhelmed, and not dependent on validation. This clarity unsettles those who rely on volume to maintain influence. Measured words have endurance. They are remembered because they are not buried under excess. Long after the argument fades, a single calm sentence may remain, echoing with meaning. It lingers not because it was loud, but because it was exact. In this way, brevity becomes not a limitation, but a force that shapes the entire exchange through restraint and quiet authority. Inner discipline disarms outer chaos. The world is restless by nature, filled with opinions, demands, interruptions, and pressures that arrive whether you invite them or not. Many people attempt to manage this chaos by controlling circumstances or other people, only to discover that such control is fragile and temporary. True stability does not come from arranging the world to your liking, but from arranging yourself so that the world cannot easily disturb you. Inner discipline begins with attention. It is the practice of noticing your thoughts before they harden into reactions. Chaos outside often enters through the smallest opening. A careless word, a dismissive look, a perceived slight. Without discipline, these moments take root and multiply, turning minor disturbances into lasting agitation. With discipline, they are observed and released before they gain momentum. This control is not suppression. It does not demand that you feel nothing or care less. It asks that you choose how deeply external events are allowed to reach. You still register what happens, but you do not surrender your inner order to it. This distinction is subtle but powerful. It allows you to remain engaged without being consumed, present without being pulled apart. Outer chaos feeds on reaction. It grows louder when met with anger, fear, or urgency. When you respond with steadiness, chaos loses its rhythm. It cannot find the resistance it needs to sustain itself. Over time, people notice that attempts to provoke you fall flat. Situations that unsettle others pass through you with minimal effect. This is not because you are indifferent, but because your responses are governed by principle rather than impulse. Discipline also brings consistency. You are not calm one day and reactive the next. You do not speak wisely only when conditions are favorable. This reliability builds trust both in yourself and in how others perceive you. People come to understand that you will not be swayed by noise or pressure. Your presence alone can slow a room, not through dominance but through composure. As inner discipline strengthens, decisions become clearer. You are less hurried, less defensive, less entangled in outcomes you cannot control. You focus on what is yours to manage, your thoughts, your words, your actions. This focus narrows the field of chaos until it becomes manageable, even insignificant. There will always be unpredictability outside you. Opinions will clash. Plans will falter. People will act from their own confusion. Inner discipline does not eliminate these realities. It neutralizes their impact. It transforms chaos from a threat into a test of steadiness. Each encounter becomes an opportunity to practice restraint, patience, and clarity. When the inner world is ordered, the outer world loses its power to overwhelm. You move through disorder without absorbing it. You stand firm while circumstances shift around you. In this way, discipline becomes a quiet shield.